this is Merrisa Naidoo from GAIA Africa reporting to you on day 5 of the INC-5.2. So today marks nearly a week since we've been in the negotiations, beginning with a bold and much needed action by observer groups, followed by the stock-taking plenary to assess how far we've actually come over this week. The voices of waste pickers, frontline communities, scientists, healthcare professionals, children and youth, as well as businesses and non-governmental organizations from all around the world came together today at the entrance of the plenary hall to call on governments to step up. What this means is that they need to firstly fix the process, keep their promise in order to end plastic pollution. The silent yet peaceful mobilization spoke volumes and louder than words. Reflecting on the stock-taking plenary, however, the co-chairs of the contact groups presented their status over how the week prevailed in another attempt to text streamline. Now, this particular text has been called the assembled text. The assembled text, however, in the words of the contact group 2 co-chair from Ghana, currently looks like a Christmas tree, riddled with over 1,000 brackets, almost 1,488 brackets to be precise. This current assembled text overall resembles a complex mix of progress and compromise. On one hand, it contains strong, legally binding provisions that is backed by a majority group of countries in order to secure us a treaty that is respective of the UNEA 514 mandate, which is to end plastic pollution, phase out the most hazardous and harmful chemicals, and also secure a dedicated fund that will enable a just transition and ensure that the provisions of the treaty are met. On the other hand, we see a completely compromised text that has been sort of infiltrated by vested interests. What that means is it's calling for unchecked plastic production. It is also speaking to the so-called notion of development, so to say, and it prioritizes profits over people. And you can only imagine who that text has been put forward by. It also completely disregards the rights of waste pickers and frontline communities. And all of this to say that this document is currently mirroring a troubling pattern that we've been seeing over the course of the INCs thus far. What that means is we're stuck in brackets, we have another bloated text on our hands, and it is failing to actually address the urgency of the plastic crisis along the lines of a narrative that certain countries are pushing for, which is nothing is agreed until everything is agreed. And this particular consensus deadlock is what is currently holding this process hostage, as mouthed by the Ethiopian delegate in today's plenary. Countries have also proposed the organization of work in order for us to be more efficient in the coming days, trying to adopt different discussion formats, perhaps more informal meetings, perhaps working group meetings, trying to bridge the gaps between contact group discussions. However, we're continuing to see this ideology of consensus only playing out. And as we recognize, consensus only is paralysis instead of actual progress. To end the plenary, we were once again brought to life by the distinguished delegate of Panama, whose intervention mentioned the following: a treaty without production measures will be in the sand. A treaty without chemicals of concern is denial, and a treaty without addressing product design will be one that will fail engineering, will be an engineered fail rather. These discussions will now continue. We'll continue entering contact groups and informal meetings, and we can only hope that we will actually break free from the brackets in order to break free from plastics. And this is the message of the distinguished delegate from Fiji to end today's plenary discussion. Today, we also want to acknowledge the International Day of the world's indigenous peoples, as well as the fact that it commemorates Women's Day in South Africa. For more updates and to follow along the remaining days that we have left in the INC 5.2, you can be sure to stay tuned to all of our social media pages.